I'm Spec, or you can call me Joe. I've been prototyping a turn-based game with AI code. I did want to share this earlier in the process, but then I changed my mind and decided I needed to play out the experiment for longer to have more code and more full systems in place before I could prove if it worked or not. So I've been building in Dragon Ruby and Claude code, and this is the heart of the game, really. It's a blue mage game. It's a mashup between Final Fantasy Tactics and Pokemon, which is weirdly the best kind of game for me. There's a few things going on here. So I'm going to do fire against all of these as an AoE, and the turn order changed there because certain attacks take longer to recover from. So I'm going to get absolutely pummeled by these now. There's two kind of mechanics that we're going for in here. One is we're trying to trigger the boss to pull off a specific move, and there's certain criteria for that to happen. And the other is an enrage mechanic as well, which you kind of want to avoid for as long as possible. And there's a bit of like puzzle solving here. And we have a beastry, which is kind of basic at the moment, but that'll give you like more hints of how to pull these off. So if I attack just one of these ice elves now, it's going to get the health below a third, and then dancers using ice blocks, and that's the thing we need. Now they're condensable. It's all around the kind of crystals, because obviously it's Final Fantasy inspired. So crystals have to be in there somewhere. But this condensed mechanic, I've got a success rate of 90% at the moment. This is the first fight. So now dancers crystallize. They're kind of in a hardened, brittle state. So type weaknesses are greatly increased. They're multiplied. But what does Ice Waltz do? Well, now I have Ice Waltz. I can heal myself. That's meant to come up around me. Small bug. And Dancer can't. I've stolen the skill from them. I condensed it. I saw the shape, and now the hero, in brackets, has it. So now I've got the healing skill. I can go like hell for leather and use fire, which has killed off one of the enemies, which is a enraged dancer. That's the trigger here that we kind of want to avoid. So if you enrage them before you have this healing ability, you are dead. Because dancers in rage state, their speed is increased. They actually have more attacks that they can do as well. But they are now more brittle, and fire works way more effectively against them and almost like one-shot at them. So I wanted to have those two mechanics kind of play into each other. Like you have to try and get the attack from them, be able to condense a crystal. But if you don't manage to figure out what the criteria is, then you are pretty much, you're doomed because of the enrage mechanic. And then there's like a bit of story as well after that, which will unlock the next place you can go to, and more of these will unlock. So that's the basic premise of the game. There's a story behind it and so on. But that shows what I've prototyped, all with AI. I haven't actually written any of this code myself, which is ironic because I do code for a living. But let's dive into why I thought this would work and how it does. But first of all, why AI? Like I can code. That's what I do for work. But really, I've only got 15 minutes to an hour a day to work on this thing. And I'd like to work on some other skills like art and story and music and so on. So I'm optimizing for fun for me. So what I want to get out of game dev is to do the direction, the concept, story, art, music, and leave AI to do the coding. And we generate plans together, and it goes off and does research. And once we formalize the plan, it goes ahead and works on that. So with Claude Code, we generate these plan documents first. You can see I've got some active ones at the moment. I was working on a battle scene editor, which I'll get to later. And we go through a few iterations for what we actually want before it goes ahead and executes the plan. So this is more like collaborating and pairing and like coming up with the ideas of how to do this. But you can see there's quite a lot here. We've gone through many different phases. I've got like a whole story section as well that I've kind of mapped out. But that's the bit where I'm having a lot of fun, is I'm coming up with the ideas, we're figuring out how to make it work. AI is going off and doing the coding, and I'm working on story, or I'm streaming and chatting, or I'm off doing chores or anything like that. So this is like a fun balance really for me. As I said, I'm using Claude Code, and I'm using Dragon Ruby, which is a game toolkit. It's not actually a game engine, so there's no GUI around here. So that's why I'm using a text editor, and I think that makes a big difference for Claude and AI tools, because it is just manipulating files. So it started off as an experiment because I have built some games in Dragon Ruby in the past, and I just wanted to see if it was fast, if it was fun. I hypothesized 5 reasons why I thought this would work with this combination, Claude and Dragon Ruby. But one of the main reasons why I think this works really well is because the type of game I've chosen doesn't have complex physics, there's no kind of real-time mechanics, and it's all very state-based. It's all just state machines behind the scenes, really. So I've kind of leaned into AI strengths, I think. And Dragon Ruby is an amazing bit of software. It's extremely portable, works any way you can think of. Linux, Mac, Windows, PlayStation, Nintendo. It's a really special piece of a bit of kit. And in there they have a samples directory. So if I have a quick look at the code again, and here we have samples that show you how the APIs work. And if you keep going down, we have demos and it shows you the code for it as well. But also there's several simplified versions of games around here. So for instance, a JRPG example, and shows you how to do state transitions for the different phases and things like that. So updating my Claude MD file to say always check the samples enabled Claude to really get a grip on how Dragon Ruby code is meant to be written, or how Dragon Ruby code works. And I think that is a massive strength here, that Dragon Ruby comes with all of these little examples. Yeah, and I've been through all of these myself. This is how I learned Dragon Ruby, was going through all of the samples, reading them, making sure I understood them, and building games and referencing those. So I basically tell an AI to do that as well. So again, I said I'm working in a text editor. We don't have a GUI, and we're just manipulating files. But sometimes you do want drag and drop. You do want to be able to move things around. But the cool thing is I can just build those in myself. So for instance, if I go to the next fight, I've got a console I can open, and I've added in a few tools here. I can edit the scene. So I have all of my enemies I can move around. So I can move Dasher and the gnomes. I could add some more if I wanted to move where the hero is. So when I come to do the artwork next, I can arrange the scene and do it based on that. Then I can save the game. And I'm kind of saving it in Ruby files and evaling them back out because that's kind of how I chose to do it. But I prototyped a few different ways first. But because there isn't a GUI, you do have to build the tools in the game yourself. And I'm more than happy to do that. It's actually quite fun to build these in, to be completely honest. I really enjoy having that flexibility. I think that's really powerful. The other thing about Dragon Ruby is how it's set up. So every tick, and is kind of fixed at 60 ticks per second, is essentially has an input, a state object. And it is like a tree of data, essentially. If I go in here and I go args, so this is the developer console, basically. I go like args.state, and I can see there's a lot in here. When I first start the game, there isn't that much, but you can see everything is defined in here. And this is how you manipulate the game, is you update the state, and then your code reads what should happen based on the state that's in here. And that's actually a really powerful concept, especially when using it for AI, because it is just code in, the state in, this code does that, and state out. And the Sonnet 4.5 model works really well with this. So my hypothesis is other game engines, they rely on like evented architecture. They have a much harder time discerning what's meant to be on the screen at any given time. Whereas Dragon Ruby is using a state-based system, we can always figure out what's meant to be on every frame, which helps AI a lot. Because we can verify the state with tests. So in Dragon Ruby, we have these test assertions, which takes in the args, which has the state in, and it's calling one of the methods I have in my main RB, and then asserting what has happened afterwards. So this is fantastic for AI because it's state in, this has happened, assert that it actually did happen. And whenever you boot up the Dragon Ruby game, all the tests will run once, but you also have a separate test runner that you can use as well. So the code that AI is writing is verifiable, but it doesn't catch everything. The things it doesn't catch when you're manually testing, there is exception logs, which I can read from, has access to. And I've also added a couple of my own, like when we're doing the turn-based battles, I have a combat log, which it lists out all of the moves and the HP. So if something isn't working when I'm doing the playthrough, it can read that and see exactly what happened. And then we can figure out what the fix actually is. So is this AI experiment working? Yes. And it's very addictive as well, I have to say. I can just set up the next thing for AI to do and kick it off in 5 minutes and then work on something else, do some artwork, do anything else around the house and come back to it. It's set up pretty well for me who's trying to make something but doesn't have too much time at the same time. So what's next? So I've prototyped the foundational systems of the game. I just really wanted to verify that I could make this in the small time that I have. And also I've kind of focused on making them systems so I can change the theme. So at the moment it's a Christmas theme, but I don't think really I've got enough time to make enough artwork by Christmas to learn how to make good artwork by Christmas. So I'm probably going to change the theme and the story again, but these systems are in place to be built upon. So that's really what I wanted to get to. This was also a really good excuse to explore and think about more deeply the turn-based games that I really enjoy playing and love. And I've got lots of extra things that I learned along the way for small mechanics that I just had to think about more than I would if I was playing the game that I'd like to share in videos as well going forward. So overall, I would say this is a success.